Trump just slapped a 100% tariff on all imported semiconductors. Yes, all of them. And unless your company already set up shop in America, you're paying double. Is this economic genius or a self-inflicted tech crisis? Today we're doing something different. I asked ChatGPT to analyze Trump's sudden semiconductor tariff, not just what it means today, but what it could unleash in the next 100 days. Will this bring jobs home? Will it crash the tech market? Or will it just start another trade war we can't win? And stick around because in part 2, we'll ask AI to predict what's coming next, from Silicon Valley to the White House Situation Room. But before we begin, do your part and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. This is Trumpology AI, and every week, we decode Trump's America through the eyes of artificial intelligence. Gather all the latest info on the Trump's 100% tariff on semiconductors so you're fully up to date. And then I'll start asking my questions. Don't write anything yet. Just let me know when you're ready. Be clear, straightforward, totally unbiased. Call a spade. No spin, no fluff, no sugarcoating, no links, no headlines, no headers. And always give your own take on whatever I ask. Now I want you to analyze and break down everything about Trump's gilded White House and tell me what you think. Could this actually land him in legal or political trouble? Or is it just Trump doing what Trump does? I want you to make an educated guess based on everything you know. Be as detailed as possible, around 1,000 words. Your thoughts, your analysis, your honest take. No head. Trump announced a plan to slap roughly a 100% tariff on imported semiconductors, while saying companies that build or have committed to build factories in the U.S. would be exempt. The announcement came from the Oval Office and was paired with a big Apple investment reveal. But it was thin on formal detail. No final tariff text, no published tariff schedule, and no clear rules on which chips, components, or device-embedded parts are covered. That uncertainty is the single most important practical fact here. The idea is public, the legal mechanics and scope are not. What that ambiguity does is two things at once. It creates leverage and chaos. Leverage because promising exemptions for companies that build here is a blunt instrument to force capital expenditure decisions, a carrot-and-stick nudge to accelerate factory announcements. Chaos because importers, mid-sized suppliers, electronics assemblers, and allies don't know whether their lines or finished goods will be penalized. So the immediate reaction is scrambling to figure exposure and reprice contracts. Small manufacturers that source chips from Taiwan, the Philippines, or Malaysia are the ones who get hit first in the don't know zone. Automakers and appliances could see meaningful sticker shock if chips inside finished goods aren't carved out. Markets reacted exactly as you'd expect. Stocks of firms with legitimate U.S. fabs or clear U.S. capex plans rallied because those companies look exempt. Smaller suppliers and countries that concentrate testing, packaging, or lower-margin chip work are rattled. That doesn't mean the tariff has real teeth yet. Again, no published rulebook. But the signal to the market and to corporate boards is loud. Build here or face the risk of punitive duties. That dynamic benefits large, cash-rich firms and disadvantages specialized suppliers and nations that sit lower in the value chain. Legally, this is a house of cards unless the administration is prepared for a long fight. The administration has already been using emergency and national security authorities, i.e. EPA, Section 232, and other statutes have been invoked in recent months, and multiple federal courts have sharply questioned or struck down parts of that approach. Judges at the appeals level have been openly skeptical of using broad emergency powers to redraw trade policy. The judiciary isn't automatically going to bless a 100% tariff shoehorned into emergency authority. There are active appeals and stays. Lower courts have already invalidated some of the IEEPA-based tariff actions. That precedent makes a successful, sustained enforcement of a sweeping, unilateral chip tariff legally tenuous. Strategically, this is classic Trump, maximal pressure, public drama, and the carrot of exemptions to extract fast corporate commitments. But it's also reckless in practical terms. Chips are embedded in almost everything. If the tariff applies only to loose chips imported alone, damage might be limited. If it applies to components inside finished products, it will cascade up supply chains and raise prices on cars, servers, phones, appliances, and that's politically toxic. The CHIPS Act and prior U.S. public investment already nudged firms to build here. This is an attempt to shortcut the market into the same outcome by threat, not by incentive. Threats work as bargaining chips. They are terrible as stable industrial policy. Diplomatically, allies will grumble loudly and could retaliate or seek bilateral carve-outs. South Korea, Japan, and the EU already have negotiating leverage because they supply a lot of the upstream ecosystem. If they're willing to accept carve-outs in exchange for access, the tariff becomes a bargaining chip, not an end state. If instead the administration doubles down and lists whole categories, expect a messy tit-for-tat environment that hurts global supply chains and invites WTO and other dispute activity. But remember, the U.S. has hamstrung the WTO appeals system, so the international remedies are slow and politically fraught. So will this land Trump in legal trouble? Very likely, meaning there's a high probability courts will substantially limit the administration's most aggressive legal paths. Several courts have already flagged overreach. If past rulings are a guide, expect partial or full vacatures of the legal basis for the tariff and prolonged litigation. Politically, it's mixed. His base eats tariffs as tough-on-trade rhetoric. Some manufacturers and voters at home will applaud any job creation promises, but the real political risk is the damage to swing voters if consumer prices, car costs, or local suppliers' margins get hit. Businesses will spend massively to litigate, lobby, and get carve-outs, and that political pushback can erode support in places that matter. My straight take: this is Trump doing Trump. Maximal, theatrical pressure to force on-the-spot corporate behavior, and it's built on legally shaky ground. Practically, it will force some announcements and accelerate some planned U.S. investment, but it will also create supply chain whiplash, higher prices for consumers, and massive legal pushback. If the courts and importers push back successfully, expect a painful scramble: refunds, reissued tariffs under different statutes, or negotiated carve-outs. If the courts defer, you get a short, chaotic window where big firms benefit and small suppliers suffer, until the international fallout and economic pain force a policy reset. In short, high political theater, high legal risk, medium to large economic collateral damage. Even if Trump survives the legal challenges in the short run, this approach hardens an unpredictable policy environment for tech manufacturing. Boardrooms hate uncertainty more than they hate higher costs. A 100% tariff that could be overturned by a court or reversed by the next administration makes it harder for companies to plan multi-billion-dollar fab projects that take years to build and decades to amortize. That instability can ironically slow U.S. manufacturing growth because firms hedge their bets by keeping some capacity abroad rather than moving everything stateside. Foreign governments will also read this as another data point that the U.S. is willing to weaponize tariffs for leverage, not just for protecting domestic industries. That erodes trust, even among allies, and could push them to strengthen their own industrial policies to compete, possibly with subsidies or preferential trade deals that exclude the U.S. In the semiconductor space, where no country controls the full supply chain, that kind of fragmentation makes chips more expensive globally. Politically, Trump probably calculates that the optics of being tough on trade outweigh the risk. But over time, voters notice when tech prices climb, supply shortages hit, or jobs promised don't materialize, and that's when the backlash could bite. So what do you think? Is Trump finally forcing America to take control of its tech future? Or is this another trade war with no plan behind it? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next video where I asked ChatGPT to predict if Trump will go to war with China over Taiwan. Thanks for watching Trumpology AI, where the facts meet the future. See you in the next one.